The tension in the living room was suffocating. My patience had worn thin, and despite my best efforts to remain composed, frustration erupted from me like a long-dormant volcano finally breaking free. "Why are you even in this house? You're just like a parasite, living off of us." The words spilled out before I could stop them, sharp and cutting. The moment the last syllable left my lips, I saw something shift in my mother-in-law's expression. Her eyes darkened, her jaw clenched, and, without hesitation, she grabbed the nearest object, one of my bags, and flung it toward the open window. I gasped, disbelief coursing through me as my belongings tumbled outside. "What did you just say? Don't you dare throw my things out," I protested, my voice laced with shock. But she didn't care. Ignoring me entirely, she grabbed another item, a framed photo of me and Anthony, and hurled it out as well. The glass shattered against the pavement below, a violent punctuation to her rage. "You don't get to talk back to me," she spat, her face contorted with fury. And then, before I could react, she took a step closer, pulling a kitchen knife from behind her. The blade glinted under the dim light as she pressed it to my throat, her grip steady. "Leave," she whispered, her voice chillingly calm, "or this won't just be a threat." My breath hitched. I could feel my pulse hammering against my skin, my body frozen in place. The weight of the moment sank into my bones, and I knew this wasn't a battle I could win. Swallowing my fear, I forced myself to nod. "I understand, I'll go." She pulled back, lowering the knife, but her expression remained unmoved. "You have 1 week. After that, I don't want to see your face in this house again." Despite the terror still clinging to me, a bitter sense of irony filled my chest. She had no idea that I was the primary financial provider for this household. Her threats meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. If I walked away, they would crumble without me. But I said nothing, masking my thoughts behind a polite nod before retreating to my room to pack. Leaving was surprisingly easy. In the end, I had no reason to stay. I moved into a high-rise apartment, relishing the solitude, the peace that had long been absent from my life. Work kept me busy, allowing me to distance myself from the chaos I had left behind. But my mind often drifted back to the past, to the day, 6 years ago, when I had married Anthony, filled with hopes of a harmonious and loving future. Those dreams had shattered when fate dealt its cruel hand. Anthony had been a strong man, his hands calloused from years of construction work, but all of that changed when an accident at the site left him severely injured, robbing him of the full use of his dominant arm. I remember the hospital room, the beeping monitors, the sterile scent of antiseptic filling the air as I sat by his bedside, tears streaming down my face. The love of my life had been broken, and I felt helpless. Then she arrived, his mother, always so composed, so self-assured. She glanced at her son, barely sparing me a second look before uttering words that stunned me to my core. "He should move back home with me. I'll take care of him." My mouth parted slightly in shock. "What? Just like that?" She lifted a brow. "Do you have a problem with that?" "It's not that, it's just so sudden," I said carefully, struggling to contain my emotions. Anthony, despite his condition, reached for my hand, squeezing it weakly. "Carol has been by my side through everything. I trust her completely." His words gave me strength, but his mother remained unimpressed, her lips pressing into a thin line. She muttered something under her breath, a sound of disapproval that made it clear she saw me as an outsider, an obstacle. Months passed, and Anthony was finally discharged from the hospital. Moving back home was supposed to be a fresh start, but instead, it became a battlefield. One afternoon, as I focused on my remote work in our bedroom, Anthony attempted to ease back into daily life, starting with small household chores. I admired his determination, but I also worried about him overexerting himself. Then, out of nowhere, my mother-in-law stormed in, her gaze snapping to Anthony, who was carefully sweeping the floor. "Carol, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why is Anthony cleaning? You must have forced him into this," she accused, her voice thick with outrage. I blinked at her, taken aback. "No, he wanted to." "Lies, you're always holed up in your room, doing who knows what, while my poor son suffers. With your husband injured, you should be the one doing everything." I sighed, frustration gnawing at my patience. "I work from home, it's called remote work, it's how I provide for us." But she dismissed me with a scoff. "I've had enough of that excuse." Before I could respond, she grabbed a trash can and flung it in my direction. It missed me, but its contents spilled across the floor, creating a mess. "Clean it up yourself," she snapped. I exhaled slowly, bending down to gather the scattered debris. Just as I reached for a crumpled piece of paper, Anthony's voice cut through the tension. "Hey, what happened here?" I forced a small smile. "It's just a small incident." His eyes flickered with concern. "Did Mom do something? Are you hiding something? Please, be honest with me." I hesitated, but his genuine worry broke my resolve. I told him everything. Anthony's expression hardened. "Got it, I'll talk to Mom about this." "Oh, it's fine, really." "No, it's not. I won't stand by and let this continue." For the first time in a long while, I felt something other than exhaustion, relief, gratitude. Despite everything, I knew I wasn't alone in this, and that made all the difference. I couldn't help but find a bitter trace of humor in the chaos unraveling before me. "Hey, what happened here?" Anthony asked, his voice tinged with both concern and confusion as he stepped into the room, taking in the shattered fragments of the vase strewn across the floor. "Your mom threw that vase at me," I said, my voice still carrying the shock of the moment. His eyes darted between me and his mother, disbelief and growing anger flickering across his face. "What? You mean that woman who came over claiming to be Mom's friend?" I nodded, watching as he turned to his mother, his jaw tight with frustration. "Mom, is that true?" She hesitated, the weight of his gaze forcing an answer from her lips. "Well," she muttered, reluctant to admit her actions. "So it is true?" Anthony's tone was heavy with disappointment. "Why would you do that?" For once, she had no quick retort. She shifted uncomfortably before attempting to change the subject. "Well, I have something to do," she mumbled, making an awkward retreat. I watched her go, a quiet sense of vindication settling over me. Perhaps, finally, Anthony would begin to see what I had endured under this roof. For a brief time, peace seemed to return. Days passed without incident, and I allowed myself to hope that this ordeal was behind us. Then, one evening, I stayed up too late, my exhaustion dragging me into sleep well past noon the next day. I was jolted awake by Anthony's voice. "Sorry to wake you, but can you come here for a moment?" Rubbing the sleep from my eyes, I noted his serious expression and quickly followed him into the living room. His mother was already there, sitting too calmly, her demeanor unsettlingly smug. "What's going on?" I asked cautiously. Anthony gestured toward the coffee table, where a plastic model lay in pieces, its carefully assembled parts now scattered in disarray. It was one of his cherished collectibles, something he had always handled with meticulous care. "I came home and found it like this," he said, his voice tight. "Do you know anything about it?" I shook my head, genuinely puzzled. "No, I don't. I haven't been anywhere near it." Out of the corner of my eye, I caught my mother-in-law's expression, an unsettling smile, as if she were savoring the unfolding tension. "Even if someone broke it, I wasn't here," she chimed in smoothly. "I ran into Anthony on my way back from Patricia's place, remember?" Anthony hesitated, his brow furrowing in thought. Then, something caught his eye. She was holding something small and reflective in her hand. "Is that an earring?" Instinctively, my hand went to my ears. My stomach sank as I realized my left earring was missing. A knowing smirk curved her lips. "This is yours, isn't it?" Strange that it was found near the broken model. I inhaled deeply, steadying myself. She wanted me to react, to lash out, to fall into the trap she was setting. "Yes, it's mine," I admitted, "but isn't it premature to assume I broke the model? Jumping to conclusions without proof doesn't seem fair." Her expression darkened, but she pressed on. "We have evidence." Anthony exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair before turning away, his silence speaking volumes. The weight of suspicion settled between us, and my mother-in-law basked in it. "It's a shame," she murmured, her voice dripping with feigned sympathy. "If you had just left when you had the chance, none of this would have happened." I clenched my fists. "If I explain everything, Anthony will understand." She laughed, a low, triumphant sound. "Will he? He already doubts you. No matter how much you insist on your innocence, he won't believe you." "I haven't done anything wrong," I shot back. But the moment Anthony returned, avoiding my gaze, my heart clenched. Behind me, she chuckled. "See, what does the truth matter now?" The days blurred together, filled with silence and strained conversations. I threw myself into work, desperate for a distraction. But she wouldn't let up, her taunts growing sharper, her satisfaction evident. You seem down lately, she noted one day, her smile sickly sweet. Is something troubling you? There's no need for you to worry about me, I muttered, just stop. Oh, but it's too late for that, she whispered, you're already losing. Then, one day, the tension boiled over. As I cleaned the living room, she cornered me, her eyes burning with venomous intent. Why are you still here? You're nothing but a parasite. I froze. What's gotten into you now? You always talk back, such a noisy, ungrateful daughter-in-law. Before I could react, she began grabbing my belongings, hurling them out the window. Stop, what are you doing? I cried, rushing to the window in disbelief. You're too noisy, I want you gone, she shrieked. Please, just stop, pick my things up, at least, I begged, trying to keep my voice steady. Then, before I could react, she pulled a knife from the counter and pressed it against my throat. My breath hitched, my entire body locking in fear. It's better if you stay still, she whispered, her voice eerily calm. A shiver ran down my spine. This isn't normal. Her eyes gleamed with madness. If you don't leave now, next time it won't be just a joke. I swallowed hard, my voice barely a whisper. I understand, I'll leave. Her lips curled in satisfaction. Good, you have a week, pack your things and disappear. The finality in her tone told me she would not relent, but she had underestimated one thing, her comfort, her control, her power, had all been built upon the life Anthony and I had built together, and soon, she would come to realize just how fragile her grip truly was. That night, after she had retired, I turned to Anthony. I see, so it's come to this, he murmured, his voice heavy with thought. I have something to tell you too, he added. Surprised, I met his gaze. What is it? We'll talk about it later, he assured me. And with those words, the stage was set for the final confrontation.